Hello, everyone. Today's presentation is the Weitz Center for Creativity and how it has transformed how Carleton learns and teaches. We'll have three presenters today. Two of them are here with us, and one will be joining us via Skype. With us today is Liz Evison? Evison, sorry. She is the Presentation and Events Support Specialist at Carleton College. Her main responsibilities include installing and supporting classroom and presentation technologies, audio and visual event support and scheduling, and training the campus community on how to use AV-related hardware and software. She has worked with AV at Carleton for 6 years, 2 as a staff member and 4 as a student. Outside of Carleton, she works freelance with film and TV productions. She earned her BA in linguistics from Carleton College. Also with us today is Jim Pierret. He is the Presentation Technology Specialist at Carleton College. He has been at Carleton since 1996. His primary responsibility is the installation and maintenance of the equipment in the 140 plus rooms, classrooms, labs, conference rooms, dance studios, etc., which have installed presentation technologies. As a team member of PEPS, which is Presentation, Events, and Production Support, he also works on event setups, art gallery installations, digital signage, and other duties that he's assigned on campus. Jim has been a member of CCUMC since 1998. He attended his first conference that year in Santa Cruz, California, and has attended 11 conferences. He currently serves as director for CCUMC as the Small Institution Interest Group Chair. He earned his BS in psychology from St. John's University in Minnesota, a BA in geography from the University of Wisconsin-Oshkosh, and a Master's of Arts in Teaching from Minnesota State University, Mankato. Also joining us via Skype is Paul Bernhardt. He's a filmmaker. He serves Carleton as Audiovisual Technical Director of the Weitz Center for Creativity, as well as Technical Director of Cinema and Media Studies. He created and still teaches the series of courses Editing with Final Cut Pro at Independent Feature Project, Minnesota. He was a multimedia producer at the University of Minnesota, creating educational video. He shares a studio in Northeast Minneapolis's Northrop King building, home to the largest open studio crawl in the United States. His work has been seen on the Research Channel, Twin Cities Public Television, at the Walker Arts Center, and Minneapolis Institute of Arts, and its film festival. In his spare time, he likes to build Legos and make art with his family, whom he lives with in Minneapolis.
Thanks, Tim. So we're talking about the Weitz Center. It's a new building we have on campus. It's actually a mixture of a new building and old building. Primarily for the first part, since I've actually been at Carleton for 16 years, you're going to hear a lot of me. Paul started a month before we officially opened the building, and then Liz actually started as a staff member right after we opened the building. So neither one of them were really involved in the first part of the building. Hey, Paul, are you hearing okay?
I can, Jim. Can you hear me okay?
Good, yeah. So
great.
We're experimenting with Skyping in Paul. He really wanted to be here, but he had other commitments through this week. So I don't do a lot of pictures, and the only camera I own is the one that's on that I talk on. So a lot of what we've got here is we've taken from the website, other people, and so on. So I just wanted to put that out there. There's a lot of things that now I think, God, I wish I actually had a picture of that, and we just couldn't find it. Just a couple slides here about Carleton. We're a small liberal arts college, not that Carleton, not the one taking pictures. We're a small liberal arts college in Minnesota, about 2,000 students now. Just a few pictures. So there's my cheesy stealing of Star Wars, copying Star Wars. So the Weitz Center started with this building, which was served as the Northfield Middle School, and originally was the Northfield High School. And it had several iterations to it, originally opening in 1910, and then moving into being added on, more construction, things being torn down. It's kind of landlocked right behind a city park, which was apparently, of course, part of a lawsuit that went to the Supreme Court because the city park was part of an estate given to the city, and at one point they were trying to add on to the school, and people wouldn't let them do it. So anyway, a little history there. So it's about two blocks from our from the main campus, but we pretty much owned everything. Oh, I got a laser here. So we pretty much owned everything in between. There's a couple of houses here that are other people's, but there's kind of this segue there. So the building closed. They closed it. They built a new middle school. And, like most, I think happened a lot of places, there was a high school, then they built a new high school, and then there was then they built a new middle school. And I think at one point here, they tried to build a new high school, then they were going to make the old high school into the new middle school, which tends to be the case. Middle schools kind of get overlooked. But they ended up actually building a new middle school in Northfield around I think it was around 2001. And the building sat empty for about 4 or 5 years. There was a movement to try to create it into an arts loft space, kind of condos, art space, and they could never get, they never were able to raise the funds to get that off the ground. And then Carleton bought it. And a lot of us thought it was the stupidest thing that we'd done. Around this time here, so this is a little bit about the old building. There's 1910s part, 1934, 1954, and there might have been a couple others. The other thing that combined to help to create the Weitz Center was the Viz initiative. I don't know if this happens at every school, or if it's just smaller arts schools, but I think we have like 4 initiatives going on right now. There always seems to be some move to always do something. So in 2004, we started the Viz initiative, and basically a real understanding, a real attempt to let's make visual learning a stronger part of the curriculum. So combined with that, and then we got this grant in 2009 to even extend the Viz initiative more. So we bought the building in 2005. And then it started right away. It was going to be an arts center. That part was, I guess, because of Viz, that was pretty clear. And our art facilities, the music facilities were lacking. And the original plan was going to be about $1 million or $100 million plan. And for the most part, it wasn't even going to the phase 1 of that, which was going to be like $60 million, wasn't even going to use the old part of the building. We're going to kind of build around it. Well, then the economy collapsed. And so those plans got kind of thrown out the window. Went back and forth. I think there was like 3 or 4 phases of different ideas of how they were going to use the building. In the meantime, it became a great storage place. They did convert a few of the spaces down below into some art studios. And then there was a lot of rumors about it being haunted. So security guards didn't like to go over there because it was haunted. But anyway, around 2009, I guess, they came up with this new plan of basically converting what was there into the Weitz Center. Well, at that point, it was called the Arts Union. But where do I want to go? I'll show you one more. So, 2011. So construction started in 2010. 2011, we opened up. So, spring of 2010. So it was a pretty intense period there. When we moved in. Our department, PEPS, not PEPS. PEPS, Presentation, Events, and Production Support, is housed in the Weitz Center now. When we moved in, part of the building was still under construction. And I always like to tell the story. I had a student worker that summer. She's about 5 foot, little ballerina. She's a ballerina from Kalamazoo, Michigan. But every morning, it was the cutest thing in the world. And this is one of those things I wish I really did operate a camera and would have taken a picture of. Jessie would put on a hard hat because the bathrooms were still, you had to go through a construction zone to get to the bathrooms where she could go and make coffee. So she'd always put on the hard hat and go make us coffee. Where are we going here? So anyway, this is some of the things that are in it. So we took the 1950s building, which of course was the newest part. It had the old cafeteria, a lot of 1950 era classrooms, and we tore it down because why would you keep the newest part? We took the old gym and converted that into, well, actually I should say that was the second gym, or it might have been the third gym. The gym that was there when we bought the building, we took that and turned it into a black box theater and then theater sports space. Next to that, there was orchestra band rooms, and they converted those into dance studios. Excuse me. Then the old auditorium, which was part of the, I think that's part of the 1920s building, which was a nice old Art Deco auditorium, but it had this very weird feature in that it was super wide because they originally would play basketball on the stage. Served as auditorium and gym for basketball games. So we took that, part of that became part of the dance studios, and then they knocked down the balcony, and we turned the whole thing 90 degrees and made a new cinema out of it. So we raked the seats up. One of the reasons for raking the seats, besides it's a great thing for cinema, is that they needed someplace to put bathrooms. So they put the bathrooms under the seating. And we'll show you more of all these things later. A lot of the old buildings, or they kept pretty much all the classrooms. You can kind of tell they put everything in the old part of the 1910 building, pretty much converted, but we didn't knock down any walls. So all the new stuff, all the new conduit, it's all conduit, new HVAC is all run, oops, if you can see right in here, is run within the building, which was another reason I wasn't too excited about, like, what's this gonna look like when we get done? The one part we did build new, they built a new museum, because one of the goals had been, and originally back at one point we were going to build a standalone art museum. But they felt that there was no way to properly create a museum and move the art collection over to the building in an old building and get all the climate control correct. And then they also built on the commons, which we're C, and then there's all the utility space was kind of built underneath in the new part of the building to serve the rest of the building. It's a whole mixture in the building. There are there's two full departments, CAMS, which is Cinema and Media Studies, and Theater and Dance. It's the first time theater and dance have been together in one building. They became a department. Dance used to be part of our physical ed department. When they came together, so this was the first time that they could actually be in the same building. A couple things I want unique, I think, are we have this faculty in residence program. So I think it's 8 different faculty that actually are members of different departments on campus. So there's an English prof, there's history prof, political science. I think there's a couple scientists. But the idea is that they're only there temporarily for a year or two, and then others will move in. But it's a whole interdisciplinary approach to the building that we're trying to build on. And then there's also the Learning and Teaching Center and our Humanities Center are based in the building. So earlier this summer, as I said, when this all was going up and we were going to be moved in there, I was not the most excited about this. I didn't think it was going to look all that great. I was kind of one of those people that was like, how are we going to support the rest of the campus when we're way over on the edge of the campus? And you know, those of you that are at larger institutions don't think 2 blocks is anything. And we can go basically across campus in about 7 to 10 minutes. But so anyway, this summer I was a Saturday, I was driving, I think, up to work to finish in a building, some of the classrooms we were working on. And there was this story on NPR talking about Columbus, Indiana, which I guess is this little town in Indiana that has this tremendous architect because of the Cummins Foundation, that they've put a lot of money into the architecture of the building, or of the town. And there was this quote, and kind of sums up what I think about the Weitz Center. I don't think, there's a lot of things that I don't think are all that architecturally beautiful, but it's great architecture because it works. Paul. So now we're going to start talking about, I'm going to stop talking, and we're going to start talking about some of the rooms in the building.
Thanks, Jim. Can everybody hear me okay? Excellent. So we have a detailed photograph of the rack in the cinema classroom teaching station. I wager it's going to look fairly familiar. The cinema classroom is an old idea. We have an excellent version of it with a larger than normal sized screen and 5.1 surround in the classroom. But there's still a kind of a familiar sensibility for most students about that experience, the experience of watching a film in what is still fundamentally a classroom. And so on the next slide, there's a tremendous quote from the chair of Cinema and Media Studies, Carol Donnellan, about the experience for students of being able to watch, really scrutinize prints of films that they're studying and have a true cinematic experience.
Do it. You want to run the?
So you like? Go ahead, Jim.
You want to do the little video first?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Please play. I had a number of students who work for me in the Cinema and Media Studies production office put together some very short videos about each of our major spaces in the building. So I think Liz and Jim are going to play the first one of those now. Great. So the old wooden seats from the former auditorium are now part of a sculptural installation in the lobby leading into the cinema. So you see our Christie L2K1000 bubbling along there up in the projection booth. The cinematic experience for moviegoers coming to the Weitz Cinema is highly comparable to seeing and hearing a movie in the Cineplex at the mall, which is to say pretty darn good. I think it's a little bit statelier room to sit in visually. But it sounds very good, and seats are comfortable. It holds about 200 people. There is room for another 50 people to sit down in front, although those seats are often removed when the space is used for performance. There have been a number of dance events that the cinema was used for. And this, I think, is fairly novel. We actually are leaving light trees in there now. There's a small lighting grid that went into the cinema. And so performing arts events are able to be held there. It's also used for large meetings on campus. The annual day-long safety workshop is coming up, and classes hold screenings there. And then some of the more traditional uses that the cinema has put to Carleton Film Society and the Student Union Movie Organization hold screenings there each and every weekend when term is in session. One of the most exciting special events that have been held in the cinema was put on by our chair, Carol Donnellan, on the occasion of publication of her new book called Electric Theater. So we put on an afternoon called Electric Theater of live music accompanying short films from the silent era, many of them rarely seen. We had a number of different musical ensembles. The live audio mixing was an accomplishment that it went well, and a video screening along with it of these old films. It was terribly exciting. We had a packed house and standing room only. Liz, I think you'd like to say a few words about the Larson meeting room.
The next room we'd like to talk about is the Larson meeting room. It's a room on the top floor of the building that seats about 50 in an open square, 128 at round tables, and then about 200 when these estimate seats are arranged in theater type rows. It's tech equipped in the way a regular classroom is, except there's no computer installed in this room like we have installed in most of our classrooms. So there is a DVD player and an aux input for plugging in HDR and several ways to attach our laptops, as well as so before we opened the Weitz, Carleton didn't have a meeting space that offered both the seating for a large meeting as well as audio and visual equipment installed in the room. And so this has really allowed Carleton to comfortably host events that had already been going on, like our Living Center, weekly lunchtime presentations that are usually conversations or narrative reflections or panels of experiences by faculty, staff, and sometimes students about learning and teaching at Carleton. So this has really upped the number of people who've been able to participate in that. And it's also been a great asset for our Student Government Association for them to be able to host their meetings in here, as well as a favorite location for our trustees to meet, and a great place for keynote speakers, for workshops that have definitely used this room for things like our Digital Humanities Conference or our Viz Conference that we just had.
This was the, well, it was part of the old media center.
There are also touchscreen controllable shades and lighting in this room.
The museum. Well,
So very first, I'd like to take a look at the short video. We're about to see the technical director of the Perlman Teaching Museum, and I asked her to show you a little tiny bit about her lighting grid works. Liz, take it away.
Here we go. Here she is.
Great. So the main gallery has a 24-foot ceiling. There's a second gallery with a 12-foot ceiling. And the lighting grid in the main gallery is in 9 sections, each of which can be raised and lowered separately by remote. And this, I think, in many ways is one of the coolest pieces of tech in the whole building.
It's really, really nice for hanging projectors, which we could not do. I mean, the old museum was a pain when anybody ever wanted to hang a projector.
Yeah. So the exhibitions are curated by faculty, and they include a number of media-rich installations. Very first week that the building was open, about this time last year, there was a show. One of the artists in the show is a group from Los Angeles called the League of Imaginary Scientists. And Jim and Liz and I and several others were all involved, helping them build something they called Blazar, which was a time capsule that visitors to the exhibit could look into and see one of the imaginary scientists lost in space. It was a bit hectic to put on, but we pulled it off, and it was really, really fun to work with them. And so there's just a link here to all the exhibits that have been on in the A and the B galleries of the Perlman Teaching Museum. And on the next slide, there's a fantastic quote from Laurel Bradley, the director of the museum, about what it means to her to be in this collaborative environment. And she's very much referring to Liz and Jim and I and many other people around the building, Jeff Bartlett and others.
So Carleton did not have a media-rich collaborative workspace until we had the IdeaLab at Carleton College. So the technology in the classroom is immense. There is a teaching station like the one that we saw in the Larson meeting room, except there's a large matrix switcher in there, which allows the person at the teaching station to show any of the student station computers on any of the 4 monitors at the corners of the room, as well as the projector in the front, and the audio switches too. There are, each computer has its own large hard drive, as well as all of the especially visualization related software that we support on campus. And so, and there are also hoteling locations in the back of the room for people to be able to plug in their laptops and meet in small groups while looking at someone's computer screen on one of those larger monitors, either a group of students or students and faculty or someone who's on our staff to be able to answer their questions. Students, faculty, and staff come to find resources and also get their questions answered about all sorts of things. Individuals, groups, or classes can reserve the space or drop in order to use this equipment. And there have been a lot of workshops in this space so far, last year and this year, including a SketchUp tutorial with hands-on troubleshooting, Moodle 2 rollout tutorial for faculty. We had several iterations of that this fall. And a geology workshop on Illustrator and Photoshop for a class that was learning on doing some mapping. In this space, down this hallway, we also have our office, PEPS, included in the IdeaLab.
Oh, there's Jessie. That's our little ballerina that was made coffee for us. Let's see, right back there, that's my office. Liz is right in there. I want to mention one thing about the IdeaLab, in that it's one of these. It was designed by a committee. So our whole coordinated support team, which is what, if you remember from Thursday night, that we received the award in collaboration for. But so that was one of the features of one of the projects that the coordinated sport model has put together is the IdeaLab. And there was this real sense people wanted, oh, and this is where, as a technologist, I kind of just went along with it. It's like, we want a space where we can, you know, be able to group the computers any way we want. If we want to be able to push them out of the way, be able to sit on the floor, do this. And if you notice, the wire's hanging down is because of that. So it's a tray that goes across the back. You know, and I had, you know, even the people in our department seemed to think that this was a really going to be feasible idea. It's never happened. It's always been set up the same way. I mean, it can be done. It's just going to take a little while longer than they ever thought it would. Also in PEPS there's another computer lab and then our media storage. So we do all the loaner equipment on campus. Plus, this area here is where we do most of the production for events we film and do some converting of media.
These stations here are not for public use. They're for our student workers to work on things.
Dance studio. So I mentioned earlier that they took the orchestra rooms and the band room and part of that long basketball stage and turned them into 2 dance studios. This is the smaller one. It's primarily ballet and I suppose more traditional things. We did add projection in there so they can, in both studios, have projection so that they can show a dance move, show a video of something and come back, or then go and practice that. Studio B is more, it's been used more by the modern dance. At least that's what I have observed. Studio B can also has seating in it, so it can be a performance space, which dance never had a space before that they could actually perform in. So they've been very grateful for that. They do some of the larger shows they will do in the Black Box Theater, but they've used this also for smaller shows. Our students, all Carleton students do some type comprehensive thing. Some departments, it's a comprehensive test. A lot of departments, it's a paper and then a presentation. Dance, usually they choreograph something and get all their friends to be in the performance. Art gallery, so art, studio art, they do, part of theirs is the show that they put on that goes in the gallery. That's the last thing that goes every year in the gallery is the senior art show. Paul, your studios.
So one of the things that I said when I was interviewing at Carleton is every interaction we have is a chance to learn from somebody else. This is my philosophy of life in a nutshell. And the culture at Carleton in terms of filmmaking was very single camera, was primarily oriented around shooting out in the field. And so there was a very, very small studio in the old building where I never really worked. I officed there for about 2 weeks when I first started while we were all waiting for the Weitz to open its doors. This studio facility is an order of magnitude larger than anything Carleton had before. And so one thing we're doing is proceeding cautiously toward students starting to do their own lighting on the grid. We have a full-fledged lighting grid in both the A and B video studios. And so at the moment, for the most part, students use them as the soundstage and just bring in portable lighting gear and use it in the ways they already know how. I am thrilled whenever I have the chance to work with students about the lighting grid, however they may have conceived their production. And we're only going to do more of that and bring more and more students online to be well enough trained to be allowed to do that. The gear was conceived of in a modular way so that when we do live switching, it's from a cart that could go anywhere. We could take our whole switching package and multi-camera package out into the commons, for instance, without any particular deinstallation. It's all cart-based, which I think is going to turn out to be really smart for us in the long run. As I say, for the most part, it's used as a soundstage for 1 and sometimes 2 camera shoots shooting ISO. But we do have a full switcher package, and there's a television class that's offered every winter, and they do live switch 3 cameras from there. So let's have another look at one of the videos that I made with our students. This is a brief view from Studio B, which this term is set up classroom style for an audio workshop, term-long audio workshop. And then we'll dolly into Studio A. Go ahead and press play anytime, Liz. So I've built a pause into this video so you can inspect the far wall underneath the control room. We have 5 lockers built in that allow us to leave studio cameras totally set up, but secured. And all you have to do is unlock the door and wheel the camera out, unplug it from the wall if it's been charging its battery overnight, and connect HDSDI to the switcher if that's what you're up to, and you're in business. So this saves a lot of time. What you see on the student's lap is an Arri L7C. That's a color tunable LED Fresnel. It's a very exciting lighting instrument. I'm happy to talk about it at great length, but I think I'll restrain myself for the moment. So
These studios were one of the other gyms.
Sorry.
Originally, they were one of the other gyms. I think it was in the original building, kind of down in the basement. Probably a 3/4, maybe a half-size gym. One of those that, you know, where you probably stood on the line to pass in the basketball because the wall was right behind you. So it was a very small gym and I don't know what it was used for in between, but after they built the new one. Okay, Paul.
So Jim, you're breaking up pretty badly from my end. I hope that my audio is still clear enough for you. But next, I think we have a couple of photographs of the audio recording studio. Is that right?
Yes.
Great. The sound in both the soundstage and the control booth of our audio recording studio is really wonderful. They're excellent, excellent sounding spaces. They got full acoustical treatment, and they're just very, very good places to hear music and record music, and I think even most especially listen to the music on the monitors in the booth. So a couple more facts, just to give you a sense of the size of our audio recording studio. The soundstage is about 190 square feet. The control room's a bit less than half that. We have an Onyx 1640i. Interesting thing about the soundstage is we got a small lighting grid on the soundstage of the audio recording studio. There's some clip lights up there that make it a nice, warm, pleasant space to be in. No one has shot video in there yet, but it will make it one giant step easier to do in a very small room if at some point any of us decide we want to do that. So Liz, I think the next slide is a little bit more about requests that we had for the studio. So from January through June of last year, there's a table here of the number of requests we had. So a fairly brisk pace, but with room enough for people to get in. Very likely people can get their first, second, or third choice of booking when they fill out the studio request form that goes to me. And so you can see the levels of activity there. really popular to record audio for extracurricular purposes. One of the vocal groups on campus recorded a whole album there. And another one of the students who works for me in the CAMS production office is a budding audio engineer and has written a couple of songs with another student, and they are recording as they write. Some very, very polished sounding music in our studio. So I think the next slide I have, Liz, is a wonderful photo of the soundstage. The end of a boom pole, and John Schott sitting almost ready to be interviewed last spring. You see you see one part of our psych on the Studio A soundstage in that photograph. There is not an endless number of sound stages in Minnesota that have sight on them. So it's a rare and wonderful thing that we do. And once students start to appreciate what it is and how to use it, they've gotten really excited about having a psych on campus. So our soundstage is about 35 by 45 feet. The grid pipe is about 12 feet 3 inches off the floor. We have rubber floors, which is unusual for a soundstage. It helps with the sound, and it helps for standing long periods of time. And I've listed here the lighting instruments that we have up in the grid. The Area L7Cs, I added a couple more tech notes about. They're brand new fixtures. We got serial number 118 and higher. So we've got some of the first pieces in the world of this very exciting new lighting instrument. We have a cool grid. All of our lighting fixtures are either fluorescent or LED that we have up in the grid. So that's going to help tremendously when we get students up there working on them. So a little bit more about the Studio A soundstage. We're using NTEC DMX-IS on an iMac to control our lights via DMX. We need lots and lots of channels for lights. The Area L7Cs require 8 channels of DMX per lighting instrument for all of the different variables on board. So here's a list of our 5 Sony EX3s and the accessories on board. We're doing teleprompting via iPad, and we have a couple of very nice OLED monitors, one in each studio, and the patch panels and patch bays that you would probably expect to see. Studio A control room, here are the particulars about our Blackmagic switcher cart that I was mentioning earlier. All of these things are on wheels, so we could very easily truck this stuff out to the commons or into the cinema or into the black box theater to do a shoot. And just a note there about what's in our audio cart. So Studio B is really a copy of Studio A. It's just smaller. There's nothing particularly different, just smaller quantities of everything, slightly smaller size OLED. And that room gets used a lot with an iMac floater that we keep Adobe Lightroom on, and people like to shoot tethered that way, shoot still photographs tethered. We do keep a Speedotron Blackline 2400 watt-second power pack and some heads for strobe-based photography. And we've got another iMac standing by in the Studio B control room. Should we decide that we want to get another Blackmagic switcher, we would then control that via the software only. So that is a kind of a racing tour through Studios A and B and the audio recording studio. Liz, I think you have some words about the Commons.
Yeah. So the Commons is the default gathering space at the entrance to the Weitz Center. And when we talk about having faculty and staff and students of various disciplines under one roof leading towards collaboration, this is really the grand central station for allowing these conversations to start. So everyone can really use the space whenever they want, except when it's used for particular functions. Then, although we can't block it off, there are a lot of people in your way when you want to sit and have coffee. So there is a lounge area and also a cafe area. We have the Weitz Cafe down there. I think you can see it in the photo on the right. There's a built-in sound system with a few patch panels on the floor in various locations so that you can plug in for music events or for speaking events such as luncheons or guest speakers. Sometimes student groups like to perform in there. And in which case the commons is flipped to have round tables or a bunch of seating. We found it's bad for projection because there is great natural light in there. And there are also community events sometimes scheduled in that space. We're working on figuring out I forgot what I was going to say, but anyway. There is a site-specific collection of 225 quotes projected on the wall. You can barely see it in the photo on the right. From 7:45 a.m. to 11 p.m., they show in random order, changing about every hour. And Paul actually put that together.
Launched just before the beginning of the term this year, something that actually be conceived of in August of 11, just as the last of the work of the construction was finishing up on the Weitz. And it ended up, I think, looking good in a fairly bright condition, but more importantly, people are able to read quotes that in some cases provoke conversation, and that is the very heart of what the Commons is about at the Weitz.
The Commons has been one of those real surprise spaces to me because it's really been, used a lot more than anybody anticipated. It's been used for a lot of dinners. It's kind of become the default. If you have a really big dinner on campus, it's kind of become the default for that. I think Wayne is the custodian that is in charge of doing most setups on campus. I think he probably hates the space because I think he's flipping it at least once a week, sometimes 2 or 3 times a week that he's flipping it back and forth. So it's been a wonderful surprise in how great of a space it's turned out for really large dinners and meetings, and even just sitting down out there and having impromptu meetings.
Of course, the problem then to solve is where to put the furniture, and we've been figuring that one out too, when you have to move the couches somewhere else for short periods of time.
They did put there is a full catering kitchen behind the cafeteria or the little cafe there, and then upstairs by the Larson meeting room, there's another smaller catering kitchen. So nothing's cooked there. They bring it all over from the dining halls, but it's there to be served. There's 5 regular classrooms, these are basically classrooms that existed before, except we added our touches to them, added the projection sound systems. Yes, those are chalkboards. Carleton loves chalk. And so we can't, as a technical department, along with my colleagues in ITS, we have not ever really been able to contribute one failure of a piece of equipment to chalk dust. So we continue to allow them to use them. A lot of the comments people teaching last fall was like, well, how do you like teaching over here? Oh, it's great. I really love the slate chalkboards. These are original slate chalkboards. And I said, chalk is still used at Carleton. We have to make sure that we do something with the screen so that it's either in a corner or above the chalkboard so that they can still write. So there's 3 rooms. 1, 2. I guess 2 of the rooms are kind of are tablet armchairs. There's 2 of them that are tables and chairs. It's all very flexible seating. they're lightweight tables on wheels that can be pushed around. All the chairs are on wheels.
I think one department that really surprised me as being especially interested in using the new classrooms we have in this building is our language faculty, because they really love the chalkboards. And so they've been jumping at the opportunity to get in there when they can.
So, yeah, because there's no, I mean, it's only the two departments housed in the building. It's almost, there's a real push by the registrar's office and the dean's office to make other departments come over and teach in the building, which adds to the whole interdisciplinary feel to the building. What's next? White spaces, Paul.
So here's a great quote from our Director of Academic Civic Engagement about how very useful it's been to have spaces that are kind of a blank canvas. There are 3 of them in the Weitz Center. One on the main level is the large one, and there are 2 much smaller ones upstairs. All 3 of the spaces have 12-foot ceilings and lighting grids, which has been tremendously helpful for mounting projectors and allowing students to reposition clip lights basically at will to illuminate their artwork. One example of using the white space would be at Hans comps. So the senior comprehensive exercise is a tradition at Carleton, and so she put on an exhibit in one of the smaller white spaces upstairs. The room's only about 12 feet wide, and I worked with her to hang 2 projectors, each pointing on the opposite wall, and we wanted to make the images as large as possible. And this was footage that she had shot while traveling in December back home. And she accompanied still photographs that she had shot there. That was up for only about 2 weeks, and this is by design, that there should be about 5 slots in a 10-week term for anybody from anywhere on campus, not just people who are frequent occupants of the building, to be able to request to use the white space and put on an exhibition of any kind at all. The large white space has also been used to mount major exhibitions about each of the major theater productions, so Oresteia, Tempest, and so forth. That is a brief word about the white spaces.
I have to say, I never thought of myself as a negative person, but I'm coming across a little negative here. I thought the white spaces were the stupidest idea ever, that they were never going to be used, and by this time they'd be turned into offices. It hasn't happened. They've been used a lot. There's been, some really cool student-initiated exhibits gone up, some larger classrooms, or some classes, full classes being able to do exhibits. There was one last fall. A couple of students went out to New York and did interviewed people in Occupy Wall Street, and so they came back, and then I guess it was spring they put on an exhibition, and there's hung a projector in there for that they were showing that and other things. So they've been well used, much more than I thought, and unfortunately, because they have been, Liz doesn't have her own office yet. The interactive classroom. So this is a classroom built on the scale-up model design. I'm not sure how many people are familiar with that. Scale-up is student-centered active learning. Something undergraduate something. But so the idea is a really active learning classroom. All the tables can connect to their own monitor. In our case, you could actually hook up 5 different computers to them, which was kind of overkill. Then there's the 2 central. It's a deliberately planned not to have a center of the room. There are microphones on the tables, And faculty members, some of the faculty members will wear the mic and use it. The mics we're kind of on the smaller side for the need of that, for the microphones. So some good things about it. I mean, there's a few people that really love teaching in there, and there's one political science faculty member he primarily does what I like to say is backwards teaching. He records all his lectures, podcasts them, has his students listen to them, then come to class and they work on problem sets and so on, and it's great for that. The other thing I forgot to mention, so if you do have something up on, you worked a table, worked a problem, that can then be sent to all the other monitors and to the two projection screens. So if you're like, oh, group A's really got this really cool solution, here, show it to everybody else. One of the issues has been that we did not install computers into the desk. Carleton students don't yet carry their laptops very often. There's a real sense that, and they're very heavy users of computer labs. There's a real sense that my laptop is my entertainment center. This is what I do Facebook on, this is what I watch movies on, it stays in my dorm, and I go to, if I want to do homework, I go to one of the computer labs or to the library. I think that's probably changing a little, but there is talk now, maybe possibly installing an iPad into each desk. I'd be really keen on installing a Mac Mini into each desk, but there's also a real movement on campus to keep the computer count down.
And another feature that a lot of faculty really like this room for is the wall-to-wall whiteboards. Right.
There's no chalk in this room, that's true.
So the museum classroom is what we're looking at now, and it's seminar seating about 16 to 20. There are actually about 25 seats in the room nested in the corner there that students can use. The tables are reconfigurable, but this seems to be the favorite layout. It's basically stayed like this all year, this year and last year. It's called the museum classroom because it's right next door to the Carleton art collection. So it's tech equipped like any of our regular classrooms is. The projector is there on the right of the picture, and there's a regular dual booting computer in the room as well as a DVD player, and it's ready for video conferencing with a webcam and some wireless tabletop RevoLab mics that people can use for mostly Skyping. It's reconfigurable. There are no windows. Because it's part of that new construction that Jim talked about at the beginning, the HVAC system wasn't installed inside the room, so it's actually quieter. And what that wooden piece is on the back wall is an easel wall for displaying work that you can grab from the art collection next door. So they pull out so that the wood's at an angle and it becomes a place to rest the artwork. It also is creates extra writing surface if you have a few more students in the room. It makes Carleton's art collection more approachable, and it gets away from that syndrome that a lot of archives have, that it's in the basement and no one ever sees the stuff.
Well, it's still in the basement.
It's still in the basement, and so one of the drawbacks is that it is harder to find, but because of that, this room is more private, and one of its unintended uses, I guess, has been a lot of interviews of candidates and strategic planning meetings where it's less good if someone opens the door on you while you're doing that. And so it's been reserved some for classrooms, but because as a classroom, but because it's small, it usually is used more for meetings and special events.
It took, they didn't have a real good plan for moving the art collection over, and the guy that was kind of the curator of the art collection quit basically right after the first exhibit in the museum. So it took pretty much all last year. Well, I don't think they moved the collection until spring, end of spring term. So it wasn't until like 2 or 3 weeks ago that the museum classroom was actually used with the art in the collection.
And it wasn't originally equipped with video conferencing either. Once we did a few or several setups of temporarily installing a web camera into that room, we permanently installed one of these in the wall that's hooked up to the computer in the room.
Hey, Paul, still there?
Yeah.
The Black Box Theater.
So there are light grids in the Weitz. Each of the 3 white spaces has one. The 2 video studios each have one. The audio recording studio has one. Dance Studio B, and the large complex light grid in the building, the Black Box Theater. Jeff Bartlett, lighting designer extraordinaire, uses an ETC Ion lighting controller. He has a very large number of lighting instruments listed on this slide. They'll be of interest to you if that's your domain. We often use projectors. We have a number of 4,000 lumen projectors I use as video designer for major productions there, such as Tempest and Oresteia, and the production that will open in about 3 weeks' time this fall. One of the interesting things about the room is that in keeping with the modular and reconfigurable notion elsewhere in the building, the seating can be changed up. There are 6 major seating configurations, but it's around 200, depending on how the seating is designed. And that takes a great deal of effort to do, but it's really worth it. This is, of course, the whole black box notion that the room is what you make of it. And it's been dramatic how different the room can feel depending on what was designed for it. So the next slide, a really, really nice quote from Marianne Kelling, our about what it's meant for her to get the costume shop up and out of the basement in the old room, in the old building that they were, and playing with some of the rest of us in the building.
Is there a black box movie?
No. The next thing I want to talk about here is the drawing suite. So the hallway outside of this is actually something that's a major feature of the drawing area that's now in the Weitz Center. It allows a lot of space for student artwork to be posted either temporarily related to a class or on a more long-term basis. Yeah, good picture. And so along with the interdisciplinary approach to the building, the drawing used to happen in the building that we have on campus that's dedicated to our art department. But coming over here, it took it away from that siloed approach to art. The classroom, the drawing-specific classroom we saw a second ago is used for drawing classes as well as open figure drawing sessions. So the room is a collection of easel benches and stools and model stands, still life objects. There isn't fixed seating in that room. There's a short throw wall-mounted projector in there with a laptop hookup. There are also, you can't see them here, but about 4-foot wide movable wall sections that serve as curtains, but also display surfaces for art to block the light on the wall. So I'd also like to mention that sculpture classes come over here and install site-specific art in various locations in the building. So for example, for one class, a student constructed a big dragon outside of one of the outside of the regular Cinema and Media Studies Media Lab, with the idea that movies come to life, and our department liked it so much that we asked the student if after the temporary exhibit we could take it down to our IdeaLab hallway and have it installed permanently. And so now we have a dragon, and hopefully, I really like how the building is, full of technology and some exciting equipment, but I think it needs a little more texture. And I really like that there are a lot of art students that don't feel like they have any barriers to being able to stick their stuff up in this building, and it's theirs too. I always like it when I find something new that someone's decided to put somewhere, because students are allowed in this building 24/7, is that right?
Yeah.
And so they're there all hours doing all sorts of creative things.
Oh. So I guess we just want to thank people, some of the staff. Like I said, some of Paul's students helped shoot the video. Some of these other people shot some of the pictures. So our staff, camp staff, our staff. I guess we're ready for questions. Pat?
Yeah.
So you said you weren't enthused at all, but you said some things that you now want to look at. What challenges do you still face?
So Pat said, mentioned that I wasn't enthused and asked what challenges we still face in the building. I hadn't thought about that one. Well, we'd actually like the building to be opened more, and it's the first time. Buildings at Carleton have never really been locked, but since there's a sense that this is kind of in the community, they're locking it after hours, and all summer long it was locked when there's not things in there.
Locked, but granting people who are part of the Carleton community access via a key card system.
There's always interesting things that I don't know who ever decided. Like all the doors, like our office, and apparently it's because the architects must have worked more on business, but all the doors have closers on them. So even though our office is supposed to be an open area and people come in all the time, we have to put door stops under the doors to keep them open. But bigger challenges.
About being separated, you said,
Yeah, we're a little separated. That hasn't turned out to be much of an issue. And I think, so now we've had two freshman classes on campus that started and the building was there, which helps a lot. I see a lot more students just flopping down and staying in the building, where last year it was a lot less. They'd come, they'd have their class, and they leave. So I think in a couple of years it'd be really nice for that. Be a lot more activity. It's nice. Oh, we didn't show there's a common courtyard in the middle outside of the commons, and finally, like 2 weeks ago, we got furniture out there. So we can actually go outside and have lunch, which is really cool, but of course, now it's 36 degrees. So, the challenges, that I think there's going to be a real issue that people are going to start saying, yeah, we really want to have a dinner in the commons, and we really need projection. And we're going to have to say, already we've had to tell people, no, it just does not work because it's got these huge windows. So that's the challenge. Yeah, they can do it late at night.
I saw that a lot of the old classrooms now acoustic panels were there with like photo tiles on the floors. How are those ready to use?
She mentioned the acoustical tiles on all the walls. Yes, that was a challenge that they kind of came right a way to, we got in there and started discovering that a lot of the rooms were very live with sound and were not good. And that's, so like October last year, they were came in and put all those tiles in. For the most part, they've improved most of them. One of the joys which we didn't show was there's the old entrance to the high school, which at one point, I don't know when they used it, had been turned into like the nurse's office and so on, and they'd put a flat ceiling on it, and when they tore that off, they discovered this is a really nice rounded tin ceiling up there. And that space had already been slated to be a meeting room, but it was really, really echoey at first. And they came back and put the tiles up there. Yeah, well, it's a popular room to do video conferencing in too, but I would go downstairs because it's still a little more echoey than I would like.
We do get some HVAC complaints.
HVAC, yeah, that's a big one too. Yes. Paul, did you hear that question, Paul?
The language faculty got very excited about being able to record their audio textbooks in the audio recording studio, and promptly did so as soon as we opened the doors for business. I run a 1-hour session that just gets people the very basics, how to book equipment from our office, how to use it to best effect for some very simple purposes, and how not to break it. And they proceeded to start recording their audio textbooks in there. They were super jazzed about that.
Our space, what's that? That's the faculty. That's faculty. For students, it's kind of petered out this fall, but there was a student group started last year, Carleton TV. So they've kind of working on putting together various shows. I don't know that we're ever have enough support to do, a campus cable station or something like that. But I think so. Their goal is their stuff has been put online, but they were using it. A lot of those students who happen to be our student workers are off campus, which has been one of our challenges. So they're all off campus on off-studies programs. Another room we didn't talk about in our suite is we have a video finishing room. So, and that's been very popular with, like I mentioned, there's a political science professor that shoots a lot of video, and she has spent a lot of time down there editing her videos. Some other faculty coming over and other disciplines doing editing there.
And I think another thing we found is that a lot of non-academic departments are really interested in using the IdeaLab and PEPS-related spaces, because a lot of the equipment we have is a little bit more prosumer, a little bit easier to use. And so was it the athletics office that really was interested in using our lighting studio in order to take photos of people, or student activities, using it for various things? And so whenever there's a student who works for the admissions office that needs to shoot some videos for their website, they'll come over to our office to check out camera equipment. Or faculty who are interested in using classroom polling clickers from especially the sciences will come over for instruction on how to use those.
sketch.
I've seen the 2 video studios and the audio recording studio, and we've had no trouble drumming that business. There's plenty of demand for people to use the studios, both for curricular purposes and for the likes of Carleton Television Network. Steve Richardson's office, Director of the Arts for Carleton College, schedules many of the other major spaces, certainly all the performance venues. From the museum schedules what happens in the galleries. And that leaves some really interesting interstitial ground, for instance, IdeaLab, that perhaps you could talk about, Jim.
Yeah, the IdeaLab gets scheduled, and I don't know, I didn't think of this with your question. It's used a lot because it serves as a classroom, but it's not reserved for, you can reserve it, but for like 3-4 sessions of your class, and not a whole term class. So we've had a lot of, political science, a couple of different political science profs in there, biology, some of the languages. So Tucker, who's not here, one of our associates that's come a lot to CCUMC, he does a lot of programming in there, teaching Photoshop, done a lot of SketchUp for a couple different programs. There was an art history prof that normally would have taught his class over in the art building. He was in there because he wanted to use the lab a lot, and he actually was creating an exhibit that ended up going into the large exhibit space at the end of the year.
As far as brainstorming new workshops to offer, there is an IdeaLab programming committee that includes Tucker, academic technologists, librarians, and a few other people that both think up topics that might be interesting to people and also poll the community.
Yeah, but the first show, Paul, what was the first show last year in the Black Box? Tempest. The Tempest. So the Tempest was actually real interdisciplinary. So one of the sculpture professors worked with his class to do this stage design, and worked in that. And then at the same time as that was going on, one of the English profs that teaches Shakespeare was working with his class in the building and putting together an exhibit. And that was the first exhibit that went into the large white space, was stuff from his class that they worked on and put together. Other questions? Sure.
A lot of students use it for their own work, but I don't think that that e-portfolios are a very well-known concept at Carleton yet. I'm interested in them, so I'm interested to see what happens with those. But I know as Carleton students are looking forward to what they're going to be doing after Carleton, people who have photos have come down and used our fine art printers to print things, or asked us about software they feel like they need skills in how to use in order to have that be part of their resume. So I think they have come down to ask us design or visuality related questions,
All students,
but not necessarily e-portfolios yet.
yeah, all students do have to put together a writing portfolio, but I think that tends to be CD based, and it tends to, I think, just be a lot of Word documents or a lot of PDFs that they put on the CD to meet the requirements for that.
That's more of a self-reflection exercise on your writing skills having improved over the course of a student's Carleton career, but not necessarily for after Carleton.
Anyone else?
How involved were you in the program
Yeah, we kind of skimmed over the whole part of that. It's a mixed bag. We did, some of it was just initial stage when they did it. It was like we had the builder, because we had the builder and the architects lined up before the economy crashed and the $100 million plan went away. So this builder, of course, was very anxious to get busy, and so they did the kind of the initial schematic of, well, we want all these things in the building. How would you fit them in, and is it feasible? And that was, then they brought the architects back in. So a lot of the layout of the building, we had nothing to do. We did work with a technology consultant, which was, it's one of these deals that the architect came and, we interviewed 3 or 4 different architects, and they came and said, oh, and part of our package is we have this technology consultant. And I think it might have been the first time that our facilities department knew that such a thing existed, and they said, great, and did not talk to any of us. We would have, I would have liked to seen them break it down even more, hire. So we got somebody that was pretty mixed in everything, and I would have had, get somebody that was specifically for the theater and dance studios or something more like that. And classrooms, we really felt we could handle ourselves. I mean, we've designed all the other classrooms on campus. And for the most part there, he pretty much followed what we've done standard elsewhere. And that was a real mixed bag. He did some really good things, but Paul's equipment didn't actually get spec'd until after we were in the building, and the first term the studios were not used at all because they didn't have the equipment. It wasn't until winter break that those actually came. So it was a mixed bag on that part. As usual, we would have liked to have more say. And there's things that are weird, like the cinema has a really nice lighting system, but it doesn't talk to our AMX system at all because we weren't involved really at all in the cinema design, and nobody stopped to say, oh, maybe we can work together on this.
It's an ETS system. It works well, but it's not related to our other systems.
So you have to walk away. We could have, to be on the touchscreen would be really desirable, but at this point, nobody's wanting to go back and do that, spend the money to go back and do that. And the Commons, like I said, is really nice space, but even after hours, there's no way. All the lights are controlled centrally in the building. There's no way to turn off the lights. So your idea earlier of doing projection after 9 doesn't work. So I think some of those things, and then they're coming back now and looking at some of these and saying, this is really bright most of the time. Why don't we have more control there? I would have liked to see more automatic shades put in. It is LEED certified, but it's like, most of the classrooms that are not being used during the summer are south exposure. It'd be really nice to put those on a schedule and have the shades drop down. But on the other hand, I do think, the buildings, there's a real push. Before I got at Carleton, there was a real push to do away with all the camps and everything like that. There was a few summer programs, but right now they're just doubling and tripling number of summer programs because we're finding out not only is it a good source, it's a great source of income, it's also a good recruitment tool. Anybody else? Well, thank you very much for coming. We
Thanks a lot.
appreciate it. Now you get to go enjoy the afternoon. No, or is there another?